Hey, Steve Stine from GuitarZoom here. Thank you so much for joining me. I've got a guitar course coming out called Fretboard Mastery, and I thought it would be kind of fun to make a couple of videos to better help you understand how to approach mastering your fretboard. You know, the term mastery is such a scary thing because we say, 10,000 hours of this and all these sorts of things. And I'm still not convinced that I've mastered anything on this instrument. But what I'd like to do is give you some tips and some ideas of things to make your path or your journey a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier to understand, and maybe not so overwhelming. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the truth and the myth of what mastery is. Now, learning how to master your fretboard really, for me, involves learning scales, learning chords, and learning arpeggios, and learning theory, but learning how to use them together in a practical sense to create melodic, creative guitar solos, melodic, creative chord progressions, different kinds of things like that. And so what I want to talk to you today is the idea of the all or nothing that we get when it comes to learning a construct, an idea on the fretboard. So let's say, for instance, you're learning how to play E minor something, E minor pentatonic, E minor diatonic, whatever it might be. So if we were doing E minor pentatonic, maybe what you would know is this. Which we often refer to as the first position of E minor pentatonic. So that's what you're learning. Okay, and you know that those notes that you're playing there are available all over the fretboard in what we call other boxes or other positions, which is great. Now, here's where the problem begins, is that we're not sure whether or not we should start learning all 5 of our pentatonic positions, or we should just stay in one position, or maybe learn 2 positions. And the answer is they're all fine. But because humans tend to have this all or nothing mentality, we tend to think, well, I'm going to learn all 5 of my positions before I actually start learning how to solo. And maybe that works for you. What I want you to consider is trying to learn how to play maybe 1 or 2 positions on your guitar and really start learning how to explore them and get creative with them. So I'm going to be making 3 different videos here that hopefully you'll be able to watch all 3 of those and get some really great ideas on furthering your mastery of your fretboard. So let's say we have this one position that we're doing right now. Now, what I try and have people do is I start them off by understanding the concept of meandering. Now, meandering is setting the metronome, whatever you use for a metronome. I don't even have mine nearby here right now, but let's say you set your metronome here. And you're going to do 2 per click each time. Bum, 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 bum. What you do, and again, you could set your metronome at whatever speed is comfortable for you, but be honest with yourself. Don't set it at a speed that's too difficult, and certainly don't set it at a speed that's way too easy. Find that speed that you need to set it at, that tempo that's challenging for you. Now, what meandering is moving around inside the construct or the box or the position that you're working on, brainlessly or aimlessly. You're just trying to move around and see how long your brain and your hands will allow you to simply move in and out of this position. So if I was doing something like this. Now again, the rule to meandering is find the right tempo, and you're not allowed to stop. If you keep stopping, chances are that your tempo is too fast, okay? Because your brain is shutting down. What you need to do is start learning to have a synchronization going between your hands and a natural motion across the fretboard, okay? I always think of it kind of like driving a car. When you first start driving, everything is terrifying, right? But once you've been doing it for a while, you really don't pay attention much anymore, and you can choose different paths, different roads to drive to get to your destination. And the same thing happens here as we start developing this concept of meandering. We set the metronome. Again, we find that tempo that works for us, and we start building this. Now, the first time you do it, you might only be able to do it for 20 seconds before you have to stop. You try it again. Maybe the next time you keep improving and you keep improving. If you find that you just keep failing after just a few seconds, again, slow the metronome down and try it again. Find that speed that's working for you, okay? Now, the next thing I want you to think about and this is the super cool part, is then you start building into another position on your fretboard. So let's say we're calling this one first position. Let's say we memorize the fifth position, which looks like this. Okay, so I memorized that fifth position. And now what I want to do is I want to start learning to meander through these two positions. What I want you to understand is that what I'm doing right now, I call it a creative space. Okay, although meandering, we're not quite there, and the guitar course will go way deeper into all of these sort of things. But when you first start learning how to play scales, you play by route, which is just up and down, which is essential. You need to learn how to do that for sure. But to get to a creative space where you can actually start focusing on different things, you can't just play something that you've memorized up and down over and over and over. Because, the biggest argument is, well, everything I do sounds like a scale. Well, that's why. See, this meandering, what it's trying to do is break you out of thinking about just playing up and down a scale. You're trying to jump over strings and repeat little ideas, little motifs, if you will, as you keep playing. But you're doing it without being really aware of it. And as you get better at it, you can become more aware of what you're doing, and you can start really trying to formulate movements inside this box or this construct into two of them, and you start building them out. Okay? Now, the question is, do you move then to three of them? Well, maybe you do, but maybe you stay with just two of those things, and you really start trying to hone in your chops with that. Okay? You start really trying to get comfortable with the movement between those positions. Okay? So what I want you to do is practice that a little bit and then join me for the second video. And in the second video, I'm going to expand this by adding in the topic of phrasing and melody. We're going to start doing some really cool stuff with that.